All right. So I'm gonna get started on my marinade for the pork belly. So I'm probably using. I'll show you the pork belly in a second. It's probably about I don't know, 2.5 pound piece. So I'll show you. I don't want to go back and forth and touch and then do all this because it's going to just delay things. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a couple nice large spoonfuls of the garlic. I'll probably actually do 3. And surprisingly enough, this has a really good balance of heat and spiciness and flavor, saltiness. It's got good balance. There's a lot of spice blends and chili paste and different things out there that I really don't enjoy. I'm not one of those guys that's like, just crank up the heat, man. That's not me. I like things to have balance. Like I can eat spicy and heat all day long as it's got flavor and that the flavors are well put together. So I did about 3 large tablespoons, and I'm gonna just kind of do some glugs of the soy sauce and see how that looks as it goes together. And I'm gonna tell you, if you get offended by people sticking their fingers in food and tasting it, you should probably turn away, and you might not enjoy what I do, because I just grew up. I was a chef for a long time, and you had to taste what you were doing. So I got some brown sugar in there. I'm just gonna mix that up. I don't want it to be too salty. I don't want it to be too spicy, and I really don't want it to be too sweet. But what'll end up happening is I'm gonna end up taking the pork belly and searing it, which is another concept. You may have heard the term searing. Means high heat. I'm gonna do it in a cast iron pan. I will cook both sides of the pork belly to get a nice crust on it before I put the marinade on and before I put it in the oven. So I am going to use my pinky. That's pretty good. I think I will do a little bit more soy just to loosen it up a bit. And the beautiful thing that'll end up happening is, and I'm going to put a little bit more sugar. I do want it to caramelize a bit. And hopefully that this marinade will soak into the meat. And then when I do the slow cooking process, all of these juices and fat will render off the pork. And then I'll use that later on to make a sauce for the final dish. So I'm going to get started on this marinade. I'll bring you back in just a moment. Okay. Welcome back. Okay, so here I have my pork belly. As you can see, I cut it so that looks like bacon, right? So imagine this is part of a whole piece. This is about 1/3 of it. So what I'm going to do, when I talked about earlier about scoring, is I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to do lines going into the fat across like this at a diagonal. I'm not going to go too far down into the meat. I don't really need to do that. But I want to be able to have the marinade get into the meat itself. So you see this a lot on like holiday hams. Kind of open that up for you. That's called scoring. Okay? So I will take this over. I will probably marinate it a little bit before I sear it. And then once I start to, I'll do that process. I'll bring you back. I'll sear it with you, and then I will get it in the oven. It's going to take this will do probably about 6 or 7 or 8 hours at maybe just under 200 degrees, covered tightly. And then I won't do I'll take it out of the oven and put it straight into the refrigerator and let it chill for approximately 8 hours so that it comes back together, and then I can work with it afterwards. So in fact, I'm going to cut this in half because I just noticed that normally I wouldn't be cutting on top of a piece of paper, but I have to use my cutting board again a little bit, and I just was being lazy and don't want to have to wash it. So I'm going to set this aside. My beautiful little pork belly will be going into the freezer. This remainder will be going into the freezer. And I have my marinade. And all that brown sugar has dissolved. Gonna get my knife out of the way. Get these things out of the way. So you see I use this bowl. I didn't use that much of any one ingredient. Especially with soy sauce, a little goes a long way. That stuff is really salty. Anyway. Pork belly. I'm going to spoon some of this over. And I'm going to reserve some of it for later, so that I can use it in the cooking process. But what I'll do, I'm going to leave this out at room temperature, and then I will sear it in a little bit, and I'm going to leave it like this with the fat side down in the liquid so that it has a chance to really get in there. I hope you've enjoyed this little bit. This is going to be more than 1 or 2 parts, so stay tuned for the next little bit of this. Okay, so I've got this marinating. Probably be a little while before I cook it, but I just wanted to say thank you for watching. If you like what I'm doing, subscribe. Don't do a thumbs down, do a thumbs up. Hit the like button on either Instagram or YouTube, or if you're viewing this through the website, wherever you're viewing this, and subscribe. I'm going to keep doing this. I'm constantly trying to do new things, and I think this is something that I'm going to enjoy doing, sharing my knowledge that I've gained over 20 plus years in the restaurant industry and kitchen, and sharing it with you. Peace. Subscribe. Double